Good evening and welcome to BCN News. Leading our news tonight, Niue is not sending a delegation to the UN Summit on Climate Change, which will take place next week on September 23rd in New York. This was revealed to BCN News by the Minister for Natural Resources, Delton Tangelangi. Cabinet Minister Delton Tangelangi told BCN News that while they support the regional position and the members from the Pacific attending the summit, the government has decided to focus on another big meeting Niue will be hosting next week. That is the Pacific Medical Association's conference. According to the minister, the fact that Niue does not have a seat at the UN or voting rights makes it even harder to justify sending a delegation to just sit and observe. Niue, the Cook Islands and other Pacific countries, territories of the US and France are not full members of the United Nations, which means they don't have voting rights as the other 193 full members of the UN. The minister said that the Niue government position has consistently been to support the regional position, calling on urgent global action on climate change. He says that the regional champions on climate change, such as the leaders of Tuvalu and Kiribati and Fiji, have the support of the Niue government and reaffirms the commitments made by the leaders at the last Forum Leaders meeting held in Tuvalu in August. And the Premier, Sir Toke Talangi, is back on the island and is already back in office. Yesterday morning we contacted the Falefono and we were told that the Premier was in a meeting. The Premier has been off island since his trip to Auckland for the Indonesian Pacific Expo in July and stayed on for medical treatment. Niue is being reviewed on its progress on the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, with the team meeting government, parliamentarians, the private sector and the media on the island. Niue acceded to the convention on 3rd October 2017. The convention entered into force for Niue on 2nd November 2017. Consultant for the UN Pacific Regional Anti-Corruption Project, John Hydes, who met with members of parliament earlier today, told BCN News Niue has made progress, however is yet to update their legal framework.
In terms of the UNCAC review, Niue is already complying to many of the good practices from around the world in terms of anti-corruption. But the good thing about the review is that it points out possible amendments to the Niue Act and to crime laws that would help to tighten up the legislation here in Niue and the practices and implementation. One of the big things in most of the Pacific countries is because we've inherited old Commonwealth legislation, the private sector wasn't included in terms of bribery and embezzlement. So one of the recommendations out of this review is to be amending legislation so as the private sector bribery, embezzlement, corruption also comes into the Niue Act and the crime provisions.
The United Nations Convention Against Corruption is the only legally binding universal anti-corruption instrument. The vast majority of United Nations member states are parties to the convention. The convention covers 5 main areas. They are preventative measures, criminalization and law enforcement, international cooperation, asset recovery and technical assistance and information exchange. The convention covers many different forms of corruption, such as bribery, trading in influence, abuse of functions, and various acts of corruption in the private sector. The University of the South Pacific Student Council has welcomed the appointment of a special committee of the USP Council, made up of eminent Pacific leaders, to spearhead the positive way forward for the university. This was an outcome of the USP Council meeting that was held in Nadi, Fiji. The special committee was tasked by the USP Council to recruit a commissioner to work with the senior management of USP in implementing best practices and the reforms that were recommended by the independent investigator to improve the governance and oversight of USP. Earlier this year, allegations of serious cases of mismanagement and abuse of process surfaced at the University of the South Pacific involving its former vice-chancellor and president. BCN News spoke with the regional campus's student representative for the 13 campuses, Esther Pavihi, who was at the meeting.
Ultimately, what the students wanted was transparency and good governance. And we are taught such values as students of the universities, and that is the expectation of the students, that those who govern the university apply those same principles that are the foundation of the values that we aspire by as students.
Auckland-based accounting firm BDO was selected to conduct the special investigation in response to allegations of speedy appointments and contract renewals, as well as issues with staff salary under the former Vice-Chancellor.
It was a productive meeting. At that meeting, the council appointed a committee of eminent members of council. So this is a special committee to work for council to help with the future direction or the positive move forward for the university. So in that committee, it is chaired by the Deputy Prime Minister of Samoa, and the members of the committee include the Prime Minister of the Cook Islands and the Attorney General of the Government of Fiji. So from there, you can tell that the USP Council recognises the significance of going forward in a positive way and to restore confidence in the student population and the staff and all the stakeholders of the university.
5 students and a teacher from the Niue High School were part of an international World Tsunami Awareness event held in Japan 2 weeks ago. The students were invited to share with their peers from around the world discussing efforts, tsunami preparedness and awareness programs in their countries. BCN News spoke to the students about their trip to Japan.
The purpose of our trip was to go to another country and see how they prepare for natural disasters, mainly tsunamis. We got to interact with other countries and other students from different schools, and we got to see how they prepare for natural disasters and how it is in their country.
The best part of the trip would have to be how everyone can socialize easily, and what we have in common with other people. The other bit was also gaining knowledge from what they have been through that could help us prepare for the future.
The highlight of my trip was learning from other cultures and from people from different countries, and their experience with natural disasters, and how unfortunate that they experienced those natural disasters, but they learned so much from it and they were able to share it with us. So if anywhere we were going to be going through any natural disaster like that, would have some sort of experience from them.
This will be the 3rd year students from Niue High School have participated in this international event, according to the National Disaster Management Manager, Robin Hekau. The students were selected from a group of 25 applicants from last year.
I learned a lot, and I learned that there are a lot of other countries that aren't as fortunate as us, that we are very well prepared with our sirens, because there are many countries that don't have sirens to warn them before a natural disaster comes.
Mostly people, meet new people, and they share us about different kind of disaster that affect their countries and islands. So yeah, it was pretty good sharing knowledge. Yeah.
To encourage other students to participate, it's really not a long process of putting your name in. It's really short and really easy to get into, and it's a really fun experience, really helpful experience as well. So I encourage everyone to actually participate because it's really knowledgeable.
And finally, the Niue Yacht Club has appointed a new Commodore, and he is Neil Bloxham. Neil told BCN News that the Yacht Club is looking forward to new members to join the small team. The former Commodore, Keith Vile, has been in the role for more than 10 years. The Niue Yacht Club is affectionately known as the biggest little yacht club in the world, officially started in 1991 and became an incorporated society in 1997. The club is made up of voluntary members, including its former Commodore Keith Weil and the late Wally Saunders. This year, the Yacht Club moved into their first ever proper venue, having moved from temporary accommodation since its inception. The new Yacht Club is located at the Old Bond Store building in central Alofi. One of the key roles of the Yacht Club is to install the moorings and maintain these moorings during yacht season. And that's BCN News for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Do join us, same time tomorrow. Good evening.